Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Taproom Success. I'm Andrew Copeland, joined by my buddy Carrie Shumway. Carrie, how's your day going?
It's going pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, as you know, I was on vacation last week, just got back from the beach, and I'm a little sad, but I'm happy to be here with you and those watching and listening.
I don't know if I'm sad, but we're recording in mid-August right now, and I've got a little one. Carrie just got back from vacation, and it feels like summer is winding down. So I guess that is a little sad, and I hope everybody's had a great summer. But what that means is back to school season's coming back up, and there are a lot of things you can take back to your tap room as well to prepare for for the fall, and that's why we're here.
That's right. That is why we're
So
here.
today, we talk a lot about books. Often we end our episodes just talking about some books that inspired us, things that we've learned. Today, I think they're all going to be financial books. They're going to be five books to boost taproom profits. Carrie, I'm going to lean on you for all five of these, actually. So let's dive in because I'm looking forward to these recommendations too. I know our audience really likes to read, but these are going to be some books that can help taproom managers and owners improve their businesses. So let's start. I want you to tell me five books you recommend that taproom owners and managers should dive into and why they are valuable.
Yeah, we love books because, pound for pound, very inexpensive. For maybe 5 or 10 or 15 bucks, you can get a wealth of knowledge. We know this. And you and I read a lot of books and usually business books, but occasionally not. So over the years, you read dozens and dozens of books, and a few of them come to the top. So I wanted to share kind of the five that not only I think were um, inspirational for me, but also hopefully valuable for folks that are listening.
And are these in any specific order? Are you counting us down? Are they random? I don't want to make think one's better than the other.
Yeah, they're going to cover what I try to do is organize it in such a fashion that it's going to kind of hit different topics, if you will. So, for example, I'm going to give you a book on how to include your team more so in sort of the financial planning process. But it doesn't have to be just financial, it can be operational, it can be sales focused, but it's really how do we create inclusion? The next is how do we execute? So, once we got people in, and then how do we roll in some creativity to kind of keep things fresh and exciting? Then how do we make better decisions and then the fifth one is better answers. So the first book is the Great Game of Business by Jack Stack, and it's open book management focused. And this is really one of the many themes in the book is called high involvement planning, and the core theme here is inclusion. How do you include your team? How do you train them so that everyone can think like owners? Such a cool because you know when people are joining our brewery, they want to be part of something, and this is a really great system to show them how they can do that and how they can make a difference. So that's the first book is The Great Game of Business by
Great
Jack
game of
Stack.
business.
Yep. The next book is kind of taking that what you learn in that, the concepts, and making it very actionable. And this is the execution phase. So the next book is called The Open Book Experience. So that is taking this open book management, but giving about 100 different examples of companies that have implemented open book, how they did it, what results they got, lessons learned. So you can sort of blueprint this and be like, all right, well, it's good in theory, but who's doing this in practice? So that book, Open Book Experience, gives you a lot of case studies and also demonstrate this concept of a weekly huddle. So that's like we gotta have the frequency of looking at how we're doing performance wise. What are our goals? Where are we relative to the goals? How do we identify and close gaps? The third book is one that you and I have talked about a lot, and it's really more of a PDF, and that's the workshop or playbook. And I really
I'm
like
so glad that book has made such an impact on your life because I randomly discovered it searching the internet one day. But I'll let you pitch it. But it's great.
it is great, and it's number one, it's free, so you just search it and it's you don't pay anything for it. And I think it unlocks these are all sort of tied together because open book management is very much about again inclusion and involving your team and getting everybody on the same page. But the workshop or playbook is kind of a framework to do some of this stuff that does it in a fun way. Because obviously I'm a numbers guy, but it doesn't always have to be numbers. Um, so workshop or playbook, Google it, check it out. Really help supercharge your creativity for your team. Um,
It works great as an exercise to do at a team meeting, whether you're trying to find the events you need to be hosting in your tap room, the new food items you want to serve, just certain ideas to kind of get your team thinking about what you can do differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And you and I have run presentations where we do this, live with an audience, and it's just really cool. So you can focus. So it's kind of crowdsourcing, but there's a few twists, as we know in the workshop, or sort of framework that are different than things that I've heard before. So I definitely encourage folks, and we have blog posts on this. So if people want to read more, like, well, what do you mean? Like, how exactly does this work? They can check that out. But it'll be pretty evident when you get on that page, really how kind of cool it is. The fourth book is called The Decision Book, and we have talked about this one before. And what we find is that, every day we have to make decisions, right? We're trying to get a little better, but it's helpful to have models through which we can kind of filter the problems and the questions and hopefully come up with a better result and a better decision. So this book is called 50 Strategic Models, and it's called The Decision Book. And the fifth one is called The Coaching Habit. Actually, I lied. It's not five, it's actually six. It's The Coaching Habit and a book called The Book of Beautiful Questions. Now, the goal here is in order to get better answers and better results, you got to ask better questions. So that's what these things are about.
I'll double down and when I like to read, I like to be inspired. Sometimes I will read things that don't necessarily relate to my industry, but they get me thinking of like, how can I apply A to B or how can I ask that question to what I'm currently doing? And it's been a little bit since I've read it, but the Book of Beautiful Questions is a wonderful read. I mean, it's not obviously craft beer specific, but for anyone running a business, running a tap room, you got to be creative. You got to be agile. You got to look outside of your beer bubble. And books like this kind of just get your brain working in ways that I think we need more of.
Totally, totally. I mean, how you frame the question again is going to kind of result in what kind of an answer that you get. And a lot of times we're very narrow in the framing of our question. And the book has some very just simple, again, frameworks and specific questions that you can ask, but often the frameworks are more useful, again, to kind of ask a question that's going to get you a broader range of options and more likely to get you where you want to go in terms of what answers are you trying to get. So some pretty good reads there.
So we've gone through 6 books, and I forgot that I still have some questions for you, Carrie. So you're not done. You're not off the hook yet. So
Okay.
I understand that you have 3 questions to build a better budget to kind of mix it up. What are the questions and who are they geared towards?
Yeah, and some of these are drawn from the resources I've mentioned, whether it's Coaching Habit or Book of Beautiful Questions or others. Um, And so these are kind of a sampling of how asking the question differently might yield a better result. So the first question that I like to think about is it's a new perspective question. Like how do you get a new perspective on something? And the question is, if you got kicked out, say if you're the owner of the tap room, let's say things are going okay but not great. If you got kicked out and a new owner came in, a new CEO, what would they do? Like what's the first thing that they would do? And the reason for this question is we always kind of know what somebody else would do. We just don't do it ourselves for a variety of reasons. So I like that one because it kind of removes the onus on you and just said, well, if somebody else came in, what would they do? And a lot very often, oh yeah, they would do this, they would do that, and they would do that. And it's like, okay, you're the owner. How are you going to kind of approach those? The next one is a question to remove the constraints. Because a lot of times, and this is remarkable, it's very human nature, is like if I'm talking to someone about a particular problem, I want to focus on solution-based outcomes. Like, okay, we've identified the problem. We're not quite sure the underlying elements, but let's talk about solutions. But most people really want to justify why the problems exist and hang on to them. And well, it's easy for me to say that and somebody say, well, no, I wouldn't do that. But very often that's what happens. If we say, hey, let's talk about ways that you can get more traffic into your tap room. Well, we tried this, it didn't work. We tried that, it didn't work. So the removing constraints question um, is basically to say, what would this look like if it was easy? So if it was easy, what would that look like? Well, you might have to overcome the objective as well. It's not easy, but what if it was? We keep prompting with that. And then we might come up with some different solutions. So again, it just sort of shifts your mind. And the last one is the one thing question, which I really like, which is what's one thing I can do that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Because very often there's something that's standing in the way, and we kind of know what it is, and we haven't taken the time to work on it. So that's a nice question that I like to ask It's what's one thing that you could do that would make everything else easier or unnecessary.
I wake up every Sunday morning to write down 3 goals I have for the week, and I don't want them to be just high level things. I want them to be things I actually have to implement and do. And I'm always looking for a way to make my week a little bit easier. So that last question is great. So, Carrie, if someone wants to take action, maybe just read one book or implement one idea to start with, which one should they choose?
Yeah, I would start by saying, what do you think is what's the highest priority in your tap room right now? Is it inclusion and we want to involve our team? Well, that's probably a great game of business. Is it execution? We want to have a system whereby we're really tracking our most important numbers. Well, that might be open book experience. If you want to get more creativity in your problem solving and also tick off the inclusion to get your team involved, workshop or playbook. And if you're struggling with decisions, or it's just, man, we seem to be making every day, we're sort of answering the same questions, the decision book can help with that. And then again, getting those better answers, ask better questions, the book of beautiful questions. So I would recommend starting with the book, The Coaching Habit, largely because that that covers a lot of the bases here in terms. Plus, it's very approachable. It's a very readable book. There's a lot of great takeaways, simple but I would say profound ideas in there. And it's a pretty quick read. So I think that could build a little bit of momentum. And, frankly, what you and I hear a lot from our members is, one of the biggest challenges is training our staff, retaining our staff. And the coaching habit can be a really good way to kind of unlock some of that too, and maybe help manage and train in a different way by just sort of shifting the
I have not read The Coaching Habit, so that's going to be the one that I'm going to be adding to my reading list.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. Yeah, and there's another book, I think it's called The Advice Trap or something like that. But they're very similar and again, I think straightforward in terms of the method and methodology that they use. So,
So I'm curious more about that book. So I'm going to ask you one more follow-up. For The Coaching Habit, some books, let's say the workshop or playbook, it's nice to have that physical copy so you can take notes, you can dive right into it. There's others, I'll listen to while I'm at the gym or outside or something. Where would you put The Coaching Habit? Is that one I need a pen and paper to take notes while I'm doing it, or if I listen, am I going to get all I need to get?
I am a little biased because I almost always buy a paper book, and I really prefer a paperback because I can really stretch it out and write all over it. It's personal preference. To your specific question, no, I think you can get the majority of the gist if you go audiobook. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, I just happen to kind of learn and sort of assimilate things better when I'm like underlining and making notes, and then I come back to my notes, and then I'll make, you know, things like that. But the concepts I think are perfectly fine for audio as well. Certainly quicker and easier. I totally get that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the recommendations. I always appreciate your insight. And everybody, if you're interested in joining Taproom Success, we have monthly mastermind sessions where you can learn from other managers and owners from all across the country. It's really nice to get out of our bubbles and see what others are doing, see what they're reading, see what strategies are working, see what's not working. I always look forward to that. We also have tons of pre-recorded sessions, content about how to maximize the Taproom experience, how to build out your budget, you name it, and in between. We have it all for you. Once again, you can learn more at taproomsuccess.com. And as we said when we started today's episode, it's back to school season right now. So keep your learning going. Take the time to dedicate, invest in yourself to see greater success in your business. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.